Alexander the Great, King of Macedonia and conqueror of the Persian Empire. Known as one of history's greatest commanders, he founded sprawling cities, spread Greek culture throughout the world, and defeated armies that far outnumbered his own, all before the age of 30. His name will forever be associated with unparalleled resolve and limitless ambition. Limitless ambition. The Persian Empire lay at his feet. Superpower that had once terrorized the ancient Greek world now cowered before him. With its territory spanning 3 continents and a military that far outnumbered his own, it was a victory that some believed only attainable by a god. Alexander's name would forever be etched into history. It was time to enjoy the spoils of war and return home to rule over his new empire. His men surely felt this way. They were charged by war elephants, battered by torrential rain. Alexander, to the dismay of his soldiers, was pushing further east through the jungles of India. They had already endured 8 years of constant danger and battles. Finally, at the river Hyphasis, the men would have no more. Chaos broke out in the camp. They begged their king to turn back, but to no avail. At the time, it was a prevailing belief that the edge of the world lay in India, and this notion quickly took root in Alexander's ambitious mind, spurring him to take his conquest to the very ends of the earth. To this empire there will be no boundaries, but what God himself has made for the whole world, he would say in a speech to his men. He reminded them of all they had achieved, comparing their efforts to those of Hercules. Unfortunately for Alexander, the troops could not be swayed on the matter. None could match the limitless ambition of the Macedonian king, which is why so few would ever attain the same success. Inspired by the likes of Achilles and Hercules, he made it his life's goal to surpass even his greatest heroes. While critics may argue that his insatiable hunger was his greatest downfall, exposing the darker side of his character, there is no denying that it played a pivotal role in his legendary accomplishments. Alexander devoted himself to an endless pursuit of glory, which led him to achieve a significant amount at a remarkably young age. In his quest to realize the impossible, falling short still meant a victory of epic proportions. From the front, among all of Alexander's campaigns, none posed a greater challenge than the treacherous crossing of the Gedrosian desert. As a matter of fact, other than the legendary Queen Semiramis, no commander has ever successfully led their armies through it. As the blazing sun bore down on the men, each step was made harder by the deep, loose sand that would swallow their feet. The marches seemed endless. As time went on and the supplies began to dwindle, the soldiers were forced to turn on their own animals for food. When they eventually found water, some would drink themselves to the point of death. Others would throw themselves into the springs, spoiling it for the rest of them. After days of marching, the winds had caused all markers indicating their location to be devoured by the ocean of sand. The guides were now saying they were lost, and to make matters worse, the king was suffering from an injury to his lung from an arrow. Alexander was determined to keep a brave face. At one point, a detachment of scouts came galloping towards them from the horizon. Perhaps they had good news. All fell silent as they approached the king. They had found a small spring and offered him a helmet filled with water, which he graciously accepted. However, instead of savouring the liquid for himself, Alexander stunned his men by pouring the entire contents of the helmet onto the sand. The soldiers erupted into a deafening chorus of cheers and applause, moved by their leader's selfless gesture. For Alexander, there was no separation between him and his men. He would endure the same hardships and suffer alongside them, united in their pursuit of victory. Without the unwavering support of his loyal soldiers, he recognized that his success would have been impossible to achieve. As a result, he made every effort to cultivate a strong connection with them. In battles, he would lead the charges, boldly putting himself in harm's way. This meant his body was covered with scars, which he would proudly show his troops as a reminder that they weren't alone. He created a sacred bond that fostered unbeatable teamwork. With Alexander at the helm, they moved as a cohesive unit, quickly enacting complex maneuvers to devastating effect. unshakable confidence. Under the moon's gentle glow, Olympias, mother of Alexander, would soothe her child to sleep with prophetic whispers of his magnificent fate. She claimed her son was conceived by Zeus when a lightning bolt struck her belly. With divine blood coursing through his veins, many believed this new heir to the throne held limitless potential. It wouldn't take long for the confidence instilled in Alexander to manifest. Once, when he was a boy, a merchant came to his father, King Philip, with a horse named Bucephalus. It had a shimmering black coat and a towering stature. Philip and his entourage took turns riding the beast, but none could control it. It was too wild and unruly. The merchant was about to be turned away, but not before Alexander would step in. He noticed that the reason the men were having such difficulty was that the horse was shying away from its own shadow. Alexander, in his genius, would ride Bucephalus towards the sun so its shadow would fall behind it. Suddenly, the horse began to follow his every command. The men gasped, and his father said, "Alexander, Macedonian is not big enough for you. You will have to find more worlds to conquer." He refused to accept any task as impossible, even when those around him had already given up. This unwavering confidence allowed him to focus on solutions, rather than being consumed by the seemingly unsurmountable obstacles before him. When faced with overwhelming odds, such as being outnumbered 6-1 at the Battle of Issus, he remained undaunted and found a way to emerge victorious. Even when his forces were surrounded by fierce tribal warriors, Alexander's cunning and strategic prowess enabled him to navigate his way to safety. He had an unshakable belief in his own abilities that allowed him to find a way out of even the most dire situations. Instilled in him by his mother, this deep-seated confidence was further bolstered by his supposed divine lineage. He was, after all, the offspring of a god. Freed from the shackles of self-doubt, Alexander was able to act with unwavering courage and follow his instincts with complete conviction.